My intention is for this to be a new way of ordering, buying, riding, interacting with bikes.
Hi, this is Hannah from Singletrack. I was down at Stanton Bikes to have a look at my new test bike being built, but while I was there I sat down with Dan to find out about what his vision is for the Stanton company.
The whole frame is made in the UK.
And all the little linkages and things as well?
Yeah. So we've got a friend who owns a CNC firm and he's putting those parts together for us. So we send over the drawings and he gets them squared for us. And it's all assembled here. So it's all welded and made and aligned, and then we send the rear ends up to Manchester for heat treatment to bring it all back to T6, and then the front end goes to a place in Wales for rust proofing, ED treatment. So it's rust proof like our hardtails are.
So in that case, there's very little of it that you are dependent on coming from abroad, just the wheels or the brakes or whatever. What's the rationale behind that kind of business model?
So the business has been running like every other business, in the cycle industry, where you're purchasing hundreds in quantity, 100 of any single model. You get 3 sizes and 3 colours to choose from, but you have to order 100. So you end up with a load of overstock, of different sizes and colours that aren't selling that well, because you're presuming all the time, what you may sell in a roughly 6 months' time, actually, because when you consider 3 months for manufacture, 1 month for taking tubing from Birmingham out to Taiwan, and then a month shipping back, and then if there's any mishaps and problems, you're looking between 5 and 6 months. So you're always working to what may possibly happen in the future. Mm-hmm. So you end up with overstock and problems. And then obviously the other issue to that business model now is that currency isn't strong anymore. Like when the pound was strong against the US dollar, you were able to get obviously a lot more money for your pound. So say you would spend £100,000, you would get $165,000 US. Yeah. Well, now you spend £100,000 and you get 127, 123. Yeah. So that's like a massive chunk of your money. Say, let's just, for argument's sake, $40,000 US gone. Well, the customer still wants it at that price it was selling it before, so you've literally just taken out your margin. So now, well, not all of your margin, but you're taking out a large proportion of your margin. So now really, relative to the quantities that you're doing, you can tool up and pay for the labour in the UK to make a frame at the same price as you're getting it done out there. So we can still sell it at the same rate. But that's where the Marchetti comes in, actually, because obviously that cuts the tubes and bits and bobs to be on a production basis, so we can actually make the quantities without paying for other people just to come in and make tubes, if that makes any sense to you.
I think so. Yeah, so you showed me this machine before that just sort of set it up and chop them in a one-er.
That's right, yeah. So that helps us be able to hit the targets for hardtails and things like that, because we're bringing all hardtail manufacture in-house as well. So, and you'll be able to specify your reach and stack on your hardtails as well, just like you can on your full sussers. So this basically is my answer to what's happened on a global economic scale that's affected my business locally. So once the margin obviously started getting crushed, was in a bit of a flap and a panic, and we realised, hold on a minute, if we can make them for the same price, then we can bring them here and we can run the business far leaner. Mm-hmm. We can also have more of a family feel as well, because at the moment, previously I designed something, then send that design off to Aura, or it was Aura that we used, so send it off to Aura, and Aura basically redraw your drawings, send them back to you, and you quibble over any bits and bobs that they say they can't do or they can do, and then they just manufacture them for you, and in 4 months' time you have the product that you specified on a drawing. Yep. This is like so much more interesting, so much more involved. I design it, and then Jordan sits there and engineers the product, and then once that's done, all the drawings get created and sent out to the CNC firm and such like, and then the drawings go next door, and then Gav actually fabricates the product. And to make sure it's all bang on, we've got like micron perfect jigs that are made by patterns that make for Rolls-Royce. So we know that we've got a repeatable accuracy.
So, and as I understand it, then it's a response to an economic situation, but actually it has kind of soulful benefits for you because you get control over your business, and also for the customer, they get a little bit more say in, or a bit more bespoke kind of say in what it's being done because you've got that control. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So you're buying 100 of any one model and you're paying for a container, so a container can fit 300 frames in, so you're buying 300 at any one time because you're trying to obviously reduce your cost per product, right? You're buying in 300, you're doing that 3 times a year, you've got to find 100 grand per time, you know, and you might not have sold some. So it's a right faff, really. And it's a kind of it's an archaic business model, in my opinion. And I think now things are going to become more cottagey. I think the best way to explain it was I'm going to get a little social theory-ish here.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
this is my background.
oh, is it really? Same here, man. Same here. So Marx's critique of capitalism.
Oh, well, that's probably that's above my level of background. Politics is me.
Okay. Well, Marx's critique in Marx's critique of capitalism, one of the things he said was, those who own the means of production also own the means of logical thought, and that stuck with me. That really has stuck with me, because it made me realise that it doesn't really matter what industry it is. Yeah, whoever is in production of that owns the logic, the way that everybody sees that one thing should be presented to the, like, how can I explain that well? Those who own the means of production also own the means of logical thought. Yeah. So if there is a structure to the way that something's produced, then there's a logic. And that logic, through marketing and media, will be expressed to you. Mm-hmm. And you won't know anything any other way. That's just the way you're going to accept the situation, right? So we're talking really about colours and sizing. You've got no choice over those things. You get to pick from 3 colours and 3 sizes.
Yep. Yeah.
So there's no. So you then specify your individuality on your bike, because obviously all.
We all think we're special and individual.
Well, that's consumer fetishism. You know, we all form identity in relation to the products that we fulfill ourselves with. Yeah. Yeah. So then, right now, you're buying. People do it with the right fork or the right brake or the right this or the right that. Well, we want to step that up into frames effectively. So you can now, from us, it is a set model. You do have a set geometry overall, but you're sizing this geometry, which is your cockpit, which is your reach and stack. Yeah. They can be variable to suit the rider. Yeah, so you've got a set geometry, but from us you can now specify your reach and stack relative to the model that you're purchasing, and then you can go for any colour you fancy. And we've got set ones that we offer, but if you come to us with a RAL, you know, you can obviously get that. You know, it's trying to break that mental constraint that's been laid out by this industry already over sizing and colours, basically. Now we own production. We can have a different logic, effectively, is what I'm getting at, and that's what we're trying to lay out.
And also, it becomes sort of a bike for life as well, if you want to, because you were saying you can kind of swap bits out later on and change your bike to suit the riding as maybe you change, or you become a better rider or an older rider or whatever. Yeah.
So for instance, like I've always been one of those people that like to interchange things and make things bespoke, and you know, and I did the same with remote control cars. I used to quite like faffing with them as well, you see. And so it's trying to bring that kind of hop-up mentality into frames. So now we're working on carbon rear ends. Well, rather than having to commit to a $3.5 frame, you'll be able to buy your carbon swing arm, carbon swing arms, yeah, and then they'll fit this product. Right.
So if I already had one of these, I could get the carbon rear end to go with it. Yeah,
and then at a later stage you could upgrade the front end to tie if you wanted. You know?
Yes, please.
And then carbon linkages as well. I mean, another thing we work on. You'll be able to switch it. We'll do it also. All marries up and fits, so you can interswap. You can, you don't have to commit to buying a $3.5 frame, and when you've already got a $2.5 frame, you can literally just swap and change bits and bobs out. And then say if you've got the 27.5 trail version that's running 160mm fork and 140 rear travel, change the link, change the swing arm, and you've got 160mm out of the same product. You know, so you can literally interchange the bike. And then say you're fed up of 27.5 wheels, you want to try 29, you can send the bike in, and with the link that you've got and the front end, we can change the rear end, and you can effectively swap between 29, 27.5, longer travel, shorter travel, and you can do that all off the same front end with just small alterations with linkages and swing arms. So it's all calculated so that it can be hop-upable.
I'm not going to try and say that. Okay, so that's quite kind of economically sustainable. To some extent, that's kind of environmentally sustainable as well,
yeah.
because if you don't have to buy a whole new bike each time, you can kind of buy little bits. That's kind of singing to my tune. So where do you want to take the business from here? Because you're bringing it all in-house. Are you wanting to stay small and cottage-like and still have time to ride your bike? Or do you want world domination? You're quite tempted by the world domination.
Because, well, to be quite honest, it's always been the intention for this to be... It's always been the intention for this to be a big company. I want it to be a big company. I want it to be... I want to compete with the likes of Specialized, Trek, Cube, things like that. But I want to bring a totally new angle on it all.
Right.
Yeah, I want it to be like we say. So like you just said there, it's not sustainable. Like they're buying thousands of a product and then having to change the colour every year, sell all overstock off super cheap, which devalues everything that people have previously bought. You know, and it just keeps rolling like that. And I think my intention is for this to be a change in the industry. My intention is for this to be a new way of ordering, buying, riding, interacting with bikes. That's the aim. And what is my aim for this? So I intend to be in 5 years' time picking a farm, and all of this to be ran from a farm. And for there to be like what would have been cattle sheds full of CNC machines, and what would have been cattle sheds full of people welding, a bike shop on site on the farm.
Will there be chickens in between the sheds?
My wife wants a small holding as well, so it'll tie in nicely, and it'll also be a reason for families to come. So we'll have pump tracks, and we'll have camping pods, and we'll have trails running all the way through, well, as they already exist, all the way through different parts of the White Peak, you know, and you'll be able to come, see how the bikes are made, try them out, go out on a demo ride, you know, stay for the weekend. You know what I mean?
It sounds like Centre Parks, but good.
That's what we're going for, yeah. And obviously that coupled with all the different interchangeability of your products and everything, I want it to be a big company, but I also want it to be really economically sound in terms of its values, if you know what I mean. Like you say, so it's not just constant model turnover, constant waste all the time, you know, so that we're making to order, we're not sat on loads of stock, we're painting to order, you know, and it's not that there are model changes constantly to try and drive revenue, you know, because of got currency dramas and everything else. I'm probably not explaining myself that well, but principally that's my intention.
Well, I like the sound of this brave new world. So let's go and have a look at the bike and get it built, and then I'll be able to ride it, because it'll have to be a good bike to have this brave new world, won't it? Yeah. So let's see if it stacks up.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not going to try and say that. Or bunny hoppable on your hoppable bike. Yeah.
You should wait for the sun.
Wait for the sun. Which page? I might edit that out.